Guys, I wanted to re-record the office hour. I think that I can make it a little more concise. There were some really great questions. There was also a lot of downtime, so I wanted to make sure I could make this as concise for you guys as possible, um, in terms of watching this the second time through. So here we go. After the open, this is what we're going to cover. We're going to cover reflections, some of this stuff that you guys are going to want to do at home. So follow along, put the video on pause along the way. We're going to go through insights. We're going to identify personal areas of improvement. And we're also going to identify the path forward and what that looks like. Right now, what I need you to do is I need you guys to get a pen and a piece of paper. I always like doing that instead of typing on the computer. But if you want to type in the computer, maybe open up a Google Docs, you can totally do that as well. What I want you to do is one word that describes your open experience. So go ahead and write that down right now. If you need to put this on pause, feel free to do that. Some people said fun, some people said community based, some people said painful, some people said scary, frightening. There were a lot of really great pieces to this, but that one word to describe that open experience, I want you just to reflect on and how you felt about it. That kind of starts to dive deeper into this. We did a group reflection, and again, you're going to do this individually. So you're going to reflect on achievements in the open and what the open meant to you. So again, put it on pause. They're both on the screen. Go ahead and write down reflections on achievements and what the open meant to you. Hopefully you guys paused and wrote down some of that stuff. Achievements, hopefully you had a bunch of them. I think it's always good to highlight what went really well. Maybe you referred back to bright spots from the open. Totally cool by me. What the open meant to you. For me, it's always a really good community piece. Love getting together with everybody and throwing down. It's also a really good way for me to start to measure, or just have like a little like doctor's checkup for me. And I say doctor's checkup because like it's one of those things where it is measurable and repeatable every single year. So those are kind of like some things in terms of what the open means to me at a bird's eye view, but everyone has their own, and hopefully you guys wrote them down. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to go through the three WODs and go into the Games app. I want you to write down your score, the percentile for each workout, and your strength in each one of these workouts. I wrote down all three of these workouts in case you guys forgot. If you are in the CrossFit Games app, you got to open up the Games app. Um, right underneath my scores, or if you scroll down just a little bit, I don't know if you can see this, you should be able to see your specific scores. Now, from there, there's a little like score piece here. If you kind of slide over on this guy, you can actually see a bunch of other stuff where you rank in the gym, the percentiles, all those sort of things. We're going to go to that top search bar up here, and you are going to type in your name. When I type in my name, it brings me to my profile. All I'm going to do is scroll down just a little bit, and then I'm going to tap on, then I'm going to tap on this year. That will show you the percentile that you came in the workout. If you hit the little numbers sign, it'll also tell you what position you came in. What I want you to do is write down your score, the percentile, and also reflect back on what was your strength in the workout. So put the video on pause again and get those things done. All right. So in addition to that piece, your sheet should look something hopefully like this. Score, percentile strength, score, percentile strength, score, percentile strength. If it's not like that, again, feel free to put the video on pause and then rewrite it if you want to. One of the cool things about CrossFit is that we see about a 7% increase year over year in terms of if you stay in the same percentile, that's about how much you improve by that year. So if you improved by, let's say last year you were in the 70th percentile, and this year you were in the 73rd, it means you improved by around 10% that year. If you stayed in the same percentile, in the 70th percentile, it means that you improved by about 7%. Kind of cool. I think it's always good to put that in perspective. Realize that you're in a group of people that are always working on stuff and always improving along the way. So it's good to kind of understand where that falls in terms of the whole percentile of the community and what that looks like. There's a few more things that I want you to kind of figure out. One, I want you to figure out your reps per minute. So what that looks like, it's your total reps in that workout divided by the amount of time. Workouts 1 and 3 were 15 minutes. So basically, if you did, let's just say 150 reps, divide that by 15, and that will be your average reps per minute. All right, so that's 10 reps per minute. Workout 2, way more reps. Again, 20 minutes long. So let's say you did 600 reps in that 20 minutes. So 600 divided by 20, it gives you 30 reps per minute. So do that math right now. You'll see why we do it in a second. I also want you to write down what you felt like your personal bottleneck was in the fitness workout. So 24.1, it might have been the burpees. It might have been the fact that you couldn't breathe. 24.2, it could be a double under skill piece. It could be pacing. So a lot of different things. And then 24.3, again, write down what you think your bottleneck was for that workout. So put it on pause again and write that stuff. When you're ready to press play again and write that, you're done with writing that stuff down, then we'll get it going again. All right. So with 24.1, these were some of the common bottlenecks that I saw. One was a strength issue, so you couldn't snatch the dumbbell. One was a cardio issue where you just couldn't breathe. I said a pushing issue because you have a hard time pressing with the burpees. And there was also a press a little bit in that dumbbell snatch. It could be a jumping issue with jumping on the burpees. Could be a weight issue where you are a few pounds heavier doing those burpees. And if you're doing 2 pounds extra on the way down and 2 pounds extra on the way up, and there are 84 burpees, it ends up being like almost like 400 extra pounds worth of work. Could be a volume issue where you're really great through 20 burpees, but when you get to 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 burpees, tends to really slow down. So it's muscular endurance. That it also could just be a mindset piece where you struggle with wrapping your head around doing those two movements. 24.2, some other common bottlenecks. Again, we'll kind of run through these. Double under issues, you just don't have them. Double under fatigue, so maybe after 150, you kind of just fall apart. It could also mean that, which could be part of volume, but double under fatigue also could be like how the other movements make you fatigued for that one movement. Deadlifting strength, maybe the 125, 185 was super heavy for you. Deadlift volume, again, 30 deadlifts at 185, not a big deal. 80 deadlifts at 185, totally different story. Could be a hinge volume where, because we're rowing and there's a hinge volume, and there's also a deadlift. Could be a grip issue. Believe it or not, there was a lot of grip in that second workout between the row, the deadlift, and the double unders. Pacing could also, excuse me, pacing could also be an issue, or the fact that you just aren't sure how to break it up, how fast to row, how to break up the deadlifts, or if to break them up. Could be a cardiovascular issue. And it also could be a mindset issue where you just kind of tell yourself the wrong story. 24.3, definitely the hardest workout, definitely the most bottlenecks. Again, I'll run through them real quick, kind of just what they mean. I know you can read them over, but front rack mobility, maybe you really struggle with that in the thruster and it's really taxing. It could be a weak overhead position. So again, you struggle with that overhead position. So again, it's super fatiguing. Overhead mobility, you just have a poor position overhead. So it's different than weakness in that weakness meaning you don't have the strength, mobility meaning you can't have the position. Pressing volume, there were, I don't know, like 80 plus thrusters in that workout. So again, it could be the fact that you're pressing so many times and that is fatiguing for you. Could be a squatting volume issue. So the fact that it's a high volume of squats in that workout, I know that I was sore for days after that because of the volume and the intensity. Could be a chest to bar issue where you just don't have chest to bar. Could also be a chest to bar volume issue because it's too much work in a short period of time. And you're just not, you can do, again, 2 or 3, but you can't do 50. Could be a muscle up issue where you just don't have the skill. Could be a muscle up volume issue where 35 in that time domain is a very difficult thing because it requires a minute rest after each one. Could be a strength issue overall where just the 135 barbell is too heavy. It also could be a mindset piece again. So mindset kind of common across the board, but I wanted to give you guys some more additional ideas of what might pop up in terms of issues for you guys in case you miss some. So feel free to steal a few of these, write them down if something jumps out that might be something that you want to work on. When it comes to some of those issues, there are more specific things that, again, might jump out to kind of break down what this problem is. I'm not going to run through all of these, but I want you to read these over, and they might actually become very apparent to you guys with some of these workouts. So I'll pick out a few of my favorites. Single arm strength. Maybe you can dumbbell snatch on one arm, but you can't dumbbell snatch on the other arm because you're not strong enough, right? Could be the same with mobility. Maybe your mobility on one side is strong to support that position, other side, not that strong. It could be the pressing capacity in the burpee. It could be the fact that you just did not have the leg capacity for the burpees and also the leg capacity for the snatches, and that jacked your heart rate up through the roof. So somebody might say, man, I can't breathe during 24.1, but realistically, it's actually the fact that they really struggle with the jump over that, or it could be the fact that they're carrying an extra 10, 20 pounds. And again, that makes it really difficult to breathe. So like what you identify as your bottleneck and what is the actual bottleneck might be two very different things. One of the reasons why I wanted you guys to write down your reps per minute is that CrossFit aims for the tip of the spear. So they're going to program for the best and scale for the rest. And these 3 workouts, as much as they seem the same to the average person, they're 3 very different tests, right? And this is what the first one tests as compared to the second one and as compared to the third one. For the normal mortals, right? Like we're looking at somewhere between like 10 to 18 reps per minute in that first workout. For the elite athletes, they're doing close to 30 reps per minute. For 24.2, we probably average somewhere between like 20 to 35 reps a minute for what that looks like. On the higher end, the elite athletes were doing 44 reps per minute. And then for 24.3, they were looking at like 22 reps a minute. A little bit different because there's a barbell involved, and usually for a barbell again, like a mere mortal, and I say that as like an average CrossFitter, the like 8 to 14 reps a minute for a barbell workout is really, really good in that time domain. So realize that like if you're sitting at like more than that, you're probably fairly fit or you scaled the workout. Which again, it might be a good indicator that you need to go up and get stronger again. 24.2, a lot of different things that can go into this workout. Aerobic capacity, which is one of them. If you are smooth across the board, I know that was my kind of like limiting factor. Pacing ability. If you went out super, super hot, pacing might be an issue for you in 24.2. You're like, I can't breathe after the first 3 minutes. So you might need to figure out what is a sustainable pace. Maturity as an athlete, being able to just stay consistent when it really gets hard, and that's practiced over time. Coordination under fatigue. So maybe you're great through the first 8 minutes, but once you kind of hit past that threshold, and again comes back to pacing, you kind of lose the double under piece. But there's a lot of different things in these workouts where it's going to test. So the first one was more of like a sprint piece. It was like 5 to 8 minutes for the elite athletes, and that's what it's testing. For us, it's can we get the work done underneath the 15-minute time domain? So it seems like it's really similar. The 24.2 is a 20-minute AMRAP for everybody. So we go from a short sprint to a longer time domain. And then 24.3 is interval work. So for the elite athletes, they're doing 22 reps a minute. And they're getting that first part done in like 3 to 4 minutes, maybe even less. And then the back end of that, again, they're doing it in 3 to 4 minutes. So it's sprint, rest, sprint. I wanted to give you guys some real examples for what I see and what you guys can improve with these workouts. These were some of the most common struggles that people had in terms of 24.1. I'm a big fan of chasing one of these in practice workouts. And again, I'm going to kind of break it down for you guys so you can understand it. Feel free to comment and put it in the chat or in the group if you have any other questions about this. So strength is part of this, right? So like 24.1, if you don't have the strength, what I would do is I would continue to move slightly slower in WODs to increase strength. That doesn't mean move at a snail's pace, but it doesn't mean that you should be the first one done with a workout and training. So if you're focusing on getting stronger, so maybe normally you use the 25-pound dumbbell and you want to get up to 35, maybe it's you using the 30 for the workout, right? In terms of the magic number for this, it's usually between 60 and 80% of your max capacity. So if your max capacity for a dumbbell snatch is 50 pounds, for you to get stronger at that, you move weight somewhere between 60 and 80%. So if I was to actually break that down, my max dumbbell snatch is 50 pounds, and I'm going to times that by 0.8. It means that I should be moving at the top end a 40-pound dumbbell, and on the low end, a 30-pound dumbbell. That's for me to get stronger. Again, realize it's really difficult because you're going to want to like kind of play like the rabbit in the catch-up game and keep up. But if your goal is to get stronger, focus on getting stronger. Realize that patience and time are a really big part of that. Now, if 24.1 volume was an issue, you want to do more of the movement at the weight that you struggle with. So let's say I struggle at a 35-pound dumbbell. Me necessarily going down in weight and loading in more volume at 20 pounds is not going to be the same stimulus as me doing the 35-pound dumbbell 50 times or 100 times, right? One of the things I'm really cognizant of is the total amount of volume in a workout. And that'll tell me how I want to pace it. So if the workout is, say, 150 dumbbell snatches, I'm going to pace that much differently than if I have 30 dumbbell snatches. Okay. I'm going to try and be consistent where it's something when the volume pops up, I'm consistently attacking that piece. I'm also going to focus on nutrition and improved body composition. This is more specifically for the burpees. The open, if we look at that piece above with the reps, 30 reps per minute, 44, 22, the open is a lot of times an engine test. And the open is not all encompassing. The open is one step of a bigger process towards the CrossFit Games, right? So as much as like you guys didn't see anything heavy, it did show stuff that was heavy enough where you're able to move through the next part and still be challenged depending on where your level is at. Grit or like mindset was another really popular thing with 24.1. So you can load in volume or intensity and just practice that piece. You can practice telling yourself the right internal story and also create the willingness to just feel uncomfortable while you're doing those things. So some examples from class that you guys can use, and I wanted to just break this down for you guys. The strength part could be Friday's workout with strict Elizabeth. So squat cleans at 135.95 and strict ring dips. Both of those two things are strength movements. So if 135 or 95 is heavy for you, you can go to around 60 to 80% of your 1 rep max. Here's the math on this. So let's just say your max clean is 150 pounds. We're going to times that by 0.6. That means that the lightest your barbell should be is 90 pounds. Okay. Now, let's say, again, 150, and we're going to times it by 0.8. That means that the heaviest your barbell should be is around 120 pounds. Usually that like, depending on your capacity and how exposed you are to CrossFit, for some of you guys, 60% makes no sense and you'll blast through it, right? And it's too light. 80% might be really heavy for some of you guys. It might be doable. So realize like it's kind of like you got to just find what works right for the stimulus you're trying to create. Again, if you're the first one to finish that workout, you probably went too light. It's going to be slower, and that's okay. If we're stronger and we're working on strength, we can always cycle the barbell. The other part of this, if you're so strong with 135 that you do this workout in like 2 to 3 minutes, you're probably missing the stimulus, and you should add a weight. So that might look like, again, instead of going 135, you might beef it up to like 155, 165. Same thing goes for the strict ring dips. It shouldn't be like a 1 rep max. You should be working around 80% of your capacity. In terms of volume with 24.1, ways to improve that might be last Thursday's workout with the partner workout with burpees and rope climbs. You could do all 20 burpees and then you could switch, right? So like I'm going to do 20 burpees, then me and my partner can split the rope climbs, and then he can do 20 burpees, and then we can split the rope climbs. That's totally one way to go about it. So I'm getting the full volume of 20 burpees in. If we went back one and one and one and one, it's not the same stimulus of the workout. I'm also gonna maybe another way to go about this could be my partner does 20 burpees, then I do the 4 rope climbs, then I do the 20 burpees, and then we switch. So it gives me the fatigue of a pull, which kind of saw with the snatches. And then I do 20 burpees, and then we switch. So I think that again, the combination of the rope climb and the burpee, and then that volume is really, really important. Another way that I can do this is I can make the pace slightly unsustainable. It doesn't mean like burn the building down, but it doesn't mean like pace the 20 like I would the 100. If that makes sense. If I was doing 100 in a row, I would pace that much differently than if I was doing 20. I would also divide the work so my partner and I are both challenged, right? So I might do 13, Eileen might do 7, and that might be a really good place for the two of us where we're both working for the same amount of time, not necessarily doing the same amount of reps. And I think that's a little bit confusing for newer CrossFitters where in a partner workout, they're like, well, we both need to do 10 each. If you are significantly fitter than your other partner, think about like working the same amount of time and then switching versus the same amount of work. And if you look at this workout, which was Thursday, the AMRAP, and then combine that with Friday and the ring dips, you actually have the volume of 2 pressing workouts back to back. And I think that's really important to understand that doing those 2 days back to back, while you may not PR Elizabeth, if the goal is to get stronger, it allows you to get stronger and include more volume, both of which are important pieces for that. In terms of grit and mindset, be aware of the speed at which you do the burpees, the style at which you do the burpees. You could always do additional burpees at home. You could focus on the weak point of the burpee. That could be the jump. It could be the press. It could be the step up. It could be the jump over. And then also focusing on nutrition will give you guys a ton of confidence in terms of mental awareness and mindset and how to continue to improve in these workouts. If we look at workout 2, again, I wrote the quote up there, be like a postage stamp, stick to one thing until you get there. Stick to one piece within a workout and do it over and over again. So 24.2 is a longer cardio piece. So if you struggled with the cardio issue, last Tuesday was a great workout, 3,200-meter run. You don't have to run fast. You just need to keep moving for 20 minutes, right? So continuous nonstop movement for 20 minutes. Cardio issues, you have an improved body composition. Again, usually it's easier in order to improve that. And then also practice pacing. You knowing where that pacing is at and even doing negative splits makes a really big difference. In terms of skill, double under skill or volume issues, there's a few things that we want to be aware of. There's a difference between practice training and competing, and this always kind of gets missed, and I continue to review this with you guys. Practice is a low heart rate, no fatigue. So what that looks like is you are at home in your backyard practicing 20 seconds of double unders every minute on the minute. 20 seconds of work, heart rate is controlled. There's no fatigue with that thing, right? You're able to actually just practice the skill, do it with a purpose, know what you're trying to do. It might be single, single, double, single, single, double. Training is purposeful practice with a controlled heart rate. So you're in a workout, we redo 24.2, and rather than you smash it and try to get a better score, you row really slow, you break your deadlifts up 4-3-3, and then you practice your double unders in sets of 5 to 10 with a controlled heart rate. It's not as low as practice, but it's definitely in a rate that you are controlled. Competing is where you're putting into action what you practice to get the best possible score. For some of you guys, that might look really similar to training. For some of us, it means that we are like putting our head down and going 100%. So in training, I might do sets of 30 to 100. When I'm competing, I might break it up into smaller sets in order to control the heart rate and go faster because I know that it's going to break down eventually. A good example of skill work, although this isn't the same in terms of like double under practice, Saturday is a handstand walk. We had it. It's a high skill underneath fatigue. You can't, most people, sprint through the toe to bar and sprint through the other movements and expect to be able to still handstand walk. So you get to slow it down, breathe through it, break up the movements for the toe to bar so you're able to get there and still handstand walk. But I realize like that's a skill that you need to practice over and over and over again. Volume. Practice the movement. You guys have to do more reps. You can't get better until you do more reps. Improve the press. Could be I think that was actually from the wrong workout when I was typing this up. Improve the jump, which could be just how you jump within that workout. Load, volume, or intensity. Either one of those two things comes back to practicing the movement. Sunday is a really great way if you struggle with the grip and the hinge, the dumbbell back step over and the shuttle run. It forces you to grip and make sure that you're doing a single leg step over, which usually turns into a hinge on the dumbbell back step overs. And the shuttle run is also a hinge. So if your low back got tired and got all fried from either workout 1 or 2, this is a really great way to load in some additional volume. You guys might not see all this stuff, but it's actually built into some of these workouts. The last part with 24.2 is improving strength. So continue to move slightly slower in WODs in order to increase strength. I can't say it enough. It's the same as 24.1. 60 to 80% is the magic number. It takes patience and time. Again, strict Elizabeth, do the squats as singles or cleans and have a great setup every single time. If we're looking at 24.3 and how to improve that, again, 24.3 was the thruster and the gymnastics. We can improve that with strict Elizabeth, cleans, squat capacity. So cycling the barbell might be a really good thing with those percentages. You also have the press. So if you struggled with pressing and what that looks like in pulling, the clean has a pull with it, and it also has a press with the ring dip. Jackie, pulls, doing them all as pulling with the pull-ups as high as you can. So rather than having your chin just clear the bar, pull a little bit higher, like borderline a chest to bar. That will allow you to get stronger if you need to improve chest to bar. For scaled athletes, a 2 to 3 second hold above the bar for every 1 rep is a really great modification in terms of getting stronger above the bar. So rather than you jumping through jumping pull-ups like a bunny rabbit, you at some point need to take a little bit of ownership of this piece and understand what those options are. We're not always going to write them up because we're trying to create a stimulus in class, but if you understand what you need to work on and you turn to a coach and say, hey, today instead of doing jumping pull-ups, I'd really like to hold for 2 to 3 seconds above the bar because it's going to help me with my strength and my pull-up. Most of us will say, cool, it sounds like that sounds like a really good stimulus and something you want to work on. Let's go with that. Unless we're trying to understand or do something else, we'll most likely be okay with the majority of those modifications. Now, if you come at us and you say, hey, instead of doing pull-ups, I'm going to do bar muscle ups, that's not the same stimulus. Like those are completely different, right? So we're going to kind of like help you get where you want to be within that, but we're not going to change that workout to a different movement, if that makes sense. Um, skill. Skill was a big part of this in terms of pull-ups, bar muscle ups, chest to bar. If skill is an issue with that, making the most of your warm-up. I think a lot of times people, most of the time I see athletes kind of like halfway go through the skill warm-up and progression. And if you watch anyone who's good at this, they usually get all the reps in, and the people who aren't as good at that just stare at the people who are good at it. So like practicing kipping complexes, understanding what you should be doing. Like if you can get more kips in, like that's always a great piece. Um, Having accuracy through all those ranges of motion, again, is also a skill. Asking questions about your modifications, really good piece. With the skill, not making the modification too hard or too easy, just right where you're challenged to improve, I think is really, really important. So I'll show you what that looks like. Um, Somebody who has pull-ups with Jackie, but doesn't want to do all 30 because it's too slow. So what they do is they do 5 pull-ups and then they go into jumping pull-ups for the rest of the workout. At some point, you need to practice the skill of doing those. And it might be 2 or 3, it might be smaller sets. It might take a little bit longer. So like that's a combination of like strength, skill, and volume all in one. Um, Somebody who is just doing jumping pull-ups and they're just rebounding through and they know they need to work on the skill of this thing. Um, make it so it's slightly harder. Make it so you're not ripping through this thing in 30 pull-ups in 30 seconds if you know that you need to work on the skill of something, right? Ring muscle ups, great example. You might not be strong enough or have enough skill for it, but you do the ring muscle ups and you're just going through these things as fast as you can, and you magically are faster than any RX athlete. You should be challenging yourself. So, man, if you look at someone who is just kind of getting these, it's like maybe singles or doubles. If you do singles or doubles, it'll give you the skill, it'll give you the right challenge, it'll allow you to gain strength in these movements. So pick a modification that isn't just the fastest. And that goes right into going slow enough in a workout to practice the skill. Volume with 24.3, again, making the most out of your pull-up progressions, doing the appropriate of doing the appropriate amount during the workout. Oh, yeah. So like doing, again, we said this before, if you have the ability to do 30 pull-ups, but it's slower, and you pick 10 and then you go into jumping pull-ups, that's not the appropriate amount of volume for you to continue to get better. At some point, you're going to hit a bottleneck and that volume has to improve. So strict Elizabeth, let's say that you pick a 60 to 80%, you only finish the 21s. Like that's too heavy if it's at 135. I'd rather see you finish 21 and 15 at 115. There's a certain point where you have to get the work in. You don't get stronger by staring at the barbell. You also don't get much stronger if you like blow through it like a bunny rabbit. So again, like that like 60 to 80% range is really super important to understand. Um, Common themes, again, strength parts that we saw people struggle with in terms of strength. These are all movements in here. So these are the skills that we saw, and this is the volume issues that we saw. Again, CrossFit picks these movements because there is more carryover from these movements to anything else. So if you're good at burpees and snatches and double unders and deadlifts and muscle ups and thrusters, you're probably going to be okay at lunges and toe to bar and I don't know what other and wall ball, right? So realize that some of these movements in here are the ones that might again jump out at you for your own personal list. I wanted to go through the open tests a lot of stuff, but there's a lot of stuff that it didn't test. Historically, what is next in the qualifier is that we see heavier lifts, we see higher skills, we see longer time domains, we see more volume, we see increased intensity, and then we also see increased intensity also means like could be shorter workouts with more work intensity. So, it could be that we just see a higher level of work done in a shorter period of time. And we could also see workouts where we need faster recovery. So where we're doing one workout per week, this might be one workout per day for 4 or 5 days. What I want you to do right now is write down 5 goals that you want to work on. So put this video on pause and write down these 5 goals. Now, out of those 5 goals, welcome back. I want you to cross out 2 of them. Put a line right through them. Here are 3 goals, and I want to kind of give you guys an understanding of what this goal should look like. All right. And I really don't love the idea of like a smart, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound goal, but I think that it helps in terms of having some realistic expectation of where you're at, what you want to reach, and where you can be over the next 12 weeks to give you guys actual markers on this. So with your goal, I want you to write down your current capacity. So maybe it's if you're working on burpees, right? I want you to write down maybe um, how many burpees you can do in a minute, and maybe how many burpees you can do until you get fatigued. I want you to write down what you want to increase, how many days you're willing to work on that in and out of classes, and how many days you're willing to work on that. So in the gym and outside the gym. So I wrote down 3 of mine, and I'll kind of walk through these with you guys so you can, again, use this as a template to make your own and adjust to it. You can totally bring these goals to your goal review session to chat about with a coach. So I wrote down one of my goals is to clean 300 pounds. I think it's an awesome number. I'd be super stoked. My lifetime is 285. I'm currently cleaning about 270. Okay, so currently 270. That's not my lifetime. That's where I'm currently at. I want to reach 300. Realistically, over the next 12 weeks, I think I could reach 280. I'm willing to work on this 3 days a week outside of class. What that looks like for me is being in semi-privates. It might be doing mobility work. It's doing strength work in the semi-private, doing that 3 days a week. That is a significant amount of work for me to get 10 pounds. For some of you guys, because you're newer at this, 10 pounds will happen overnight. For where I'm at, 10 pounds will take me at least 12 weeks of work 3 days per week. I'm willing to work on it whenever it shows up in class. So that might mean that for Elizabeth, I'm going to do it at singles, and I'm going to have a really good setup. I work on speed underneath the bar. So speed could be part of that for me. The other focus outside of class for me might be mobility. I know that when I get into a really heavy clean, my right side kind of pulls down. So I need to work on opening up my lat, staying stronger in that front rack, and also thoracic mobility. So that's just me and what I need to work on for that. My second goal is to improve my Murph time. I think that is completely reasonable. I think last year I did Murph in around 50 minutes. And I think I'm probably as fit as that, maybe a little bit less. I would love to reach 42. Do I think I can do that, or am I willing to do that over the next 12 weeks? No, I don't think it's that important to me because these two between Murph and cleaning are completely juxtaposed. They are completely different things, right? Um, Realistic expectation over the next 12 weeks is for me to cut it from 50 down to 46. I'm willing to work on this 2 days a week outside of class. Um, Willing to work on it whenever it shows up in class. For me, that is push-ups and focusing on the run. Those are the 2 biggest opportunities for me. The pull-ups and the air squats, really not a big deal. The focus outside of class for me has got to be nutrition. I know that if I'm leaner, the push-ups are easier and the running is either easier and the doing it with a weight vest is all easier. So the focus outside of class is going to be nutrition. My third one is going to be stay healthy. Currently, I'm getting like occasional knee pain right above my knee. I want to reach no knee pain. Realistic expectations over the next 12 weeks is no knee pain, and it's also increased strength. So this health piece kind of goes into the clean goal. I'm willing to work in this 3 days a week outside of class. That matches my clean goal. Um, Willing to work on it whenever it shows up in class. So it might be that I have to so I'll give you a great example. Last week we had the lunge workout. It had like 60 lunges in it. Rather than me do forward walking lunges, I feel much better and move better when I do reverse lunges. So it involved me sacrificing the speed in order to focus on what I needed to, so I could be stronger and decrease that for me. Focus outside of class is accessory work and again, semi-private work for me. So that's where I will spend a majority of my time with these three. So for you, you're going to write down currently where you're at, what you want to reach, the realistic expectation over the next 12 weeks. And I'm like, be honest with yourself. Like, you going from a 100-pound snatch to a 130-pound snatch in 12 weeks is most likely like really, really difficult to do, if even realistic to do in 12 weeks. You also need to be understanding of what work you're willing to do with this in class and outside of class in order to get where you want to be. That could look like you doing it on your own, could look like you doing PTs, it could be you doing semi-privates. There's a lot of different ways to do that inside the gym and also outside of the gym. Guys, if you guys have any questions on any of this stuff, I'm hoping at some point you guys all book your goal review. The open is over with. I think that it is a great, great test to show you guys where you're currently at least in a bunch of different time domains. We will probably do a majority of the qualifier workouts within the gym so that you guys can have an understanding of where else you can improve in case different things are tested. A lot of stuff that we do in classes that will transfer over to this, but I wanted to continue to kind of show you what I see in my mind and what you guys can do in order to continue to improve after the open. So just to review, go back up at the top. You guys did reflections, you guys went through insights, you identified personal areas of improvement, and we also talked a path forward, whether that is you guys coming with specific goals, doing goal reviews, doing it in class, doing it on your own, or even doing it with a coach in semi-privates or PTs. Hopefully this was massively helpful for you guys. And if you have any questions, feel free to throw them into the Facebook group or below in the comments. Thanks, guys.